But then let's come back in studio. I have Francis Xavier Sosu. We're just telling you about the Medina seat and how you retained that seat this year. Your fortunes in that constituency seems to be improving.
By the special grace of God, yes.
What are you doing differently, though?
One, there is grace for the race, which is part of my single that I released recently, that God has given us sufficient grace for this race. That's the first one. So the biggest thanks go to him first. Then secondly, I think that continuously keeping touch with your people. The people, you are representing people, and so it's important that you maintain some trust between you and the people in terms of your social interventions, in terms of job creation initiatives, in terms of educational initiatives through the Best Teacher Awards that I established, the Water for All project. I know very well that because I'm a Christian, and the tendency that you may overlook a very greater majority of your populace, which are Muslims. I began what I call the Islam Project, which is led by, the senior imams in the constituency, out of which we've established what we call the Makaranta Harmonization Project. Through the Islam Project, we do our Ramadan outreach. So constantly, you are keeping faith with the critical part of your constituency. And I think that's what worked for me. And it's why in Medina West, in 2020, we had 41 polling stations. I won 40. Honorable Boniface at the time won 1, but with 3 votes. But this time around, the polling stations are 43, and we won all of them with really huge margins. So I think God has been faithful, and I think that I've also been faithful to my people.
Faithful to your people. Yeah. What should we expect now that they have given you the nod to govern them for another 4-year term?
I think they can only expect a better representation, a representation that will be born out of desire to serve. So serving the people will be my priority, and serving them with humility, with a fear of God, making sure that you represent their very interest, both in Parliament, in terms of the laws that we make in Parliament, and in terms of the government policies, or the policies that the government is going to, roll out. I can assure the people of Medina that the youth in Medina are going to be beneficiaries of the 24-hour economy policy of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the National Vocational Apprenticeship Program that the President intends to roll out. The youth in Medina are going to be beneficiaries, because I began what we call the Medina Job Center, which has impacted over 7,000 people, even in opposition. So I believe that now that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is in charge with some of programs like this, I can easily access those programs for the people in Medina. One of the major deficits we have in Medina is infrastructure. So in the last 4 years, my attempt to get major infrastructure interventions have not yielded much, because obviously the executive controls the resources that are used for those critical infrastructure. For example, the storm drains that we have not been, no work has been done on them at all. Our inner roads are completely destroyed. 10 years ago, the population of Medina was about 110,000. Today, we are over 250,000. And so, unfortunately, social amenities have not developed. They've not improved. So I'm hoping that the commitment His Excellency John Dramani Mahama made to Medina in terms of modernizing the Medina market, for example, that would be a major intervention. And definitely all the connecting roads, inner roads around in Nkwantana East and West, Tatana North and South, all would see improvement immediately if this project is able to come through. When you look at also a project like the rebuilding the Pantan Hospital into a first-class mental health facility, if that project is able to kickstart also, it means that first of all, we'll safeguard the lands of Pantan, and we'll also be able to create jobs for people living in and around Pantan, and definitely infrastructure will also improve in that area. And so I believe that the next administration, or the next 4 years, is going to be keen on some of this physical infrastructure. Look at the Danfai Mensa Road, for example, the Bogatown areas, Taiman areas, you go to Osuansa, you go to the gravel pit areas of Oyarifa and part of Pantai, Nyamikrom, areas like Aboman. These are areas that need serious intervention. I'm hoping that the NDC administration, through my constant engagement, would get some physical infrastructure to these areas.
Let me take you back to the 7th of December. Once it was 5 p.m. and collation of results across your constituency was done, you raised concerns about delays at the Master Collation Center. Are you still concerned about that?
Well, I think that we need to improve our electoral system such that collation shouldn't take more than or collation shouldn't take 48 hours. I mean, if we are, we should be able to have systems that allow us to collate faster than that, because these delays are the reasons why people who are evil-minded will always want to manipulate the system and get, fake ballots or attempt to swap results, So once elections are declared at the polling station, for us as political parties, it doesn't take more than 2 hours for you to know that you've either won or you've lost. Because all it takes is for us to, for example, in Medina, we have what we call the electoral area coordinators. So if you have 10 branches or 10 polling stations, once they are declared and we have a pink sheet, there's someone there who collates all of them and sends it to our what we call the constituency collation center. And so in the pace of 2 hours, we know for sure where we are from every electoral area, from every polling station. But where the political parties are able to quickly collate, and yet it takes the Electoral Commission a very, very long time, then it raises tension and suspicion, right? And people then begin to do all the things they want to do. Look at what just happened. I mean, look at what's happened in Domikwabi. A similar thing wanted to happen in Medina, but obviously when you have a gap of about 26,230, 260, I mean, no amount of ballot swapping can change a result like that.
You had the same challenge in your constituency?
Oh, yeah, we had, we did.
What happened?
Well, in the early hours of the voting, we noticed that the candidate of the NPP had an abandoned house in Pantai, where he had men there who are dressed like soldiers. We know they were not soldiers. So we put our boys there to be looking at them. And they had ballot boxes. Then we learned, in fact, midnight before the 7th, I had a call from the NPP because they had a meeting. And somebody was in their meeting who called me and said, I'm a Christian, I don't want to do evil, and the things we discussed, I'm sorry, but I feel I need to tell you this. That right now, it's 12 midnight, right now, someone is at a cemetery in Medina doing things. Most of what they were doing were printing ballots. And they had gathered them, and they told us where they were going to do operations. Social welfare was one of them. Otinibi was one of them. Tema was one of them. And then even Pantai. So in the early hours, we were monitoring what could happen. When it was around, I think it rained heavily somewhere around in the afternoon, right after the rains, we saw young men, gathering in specific areas, either opposite or adjacent to the polling stations. And some of them were wielding guns. So I personally called the Medina district commander. And he told me that the areas we were mentioning were under Adenta. So he connected me to Adenta commander. And then the commander quickly put a group of patrol team, and these were well-built police officers, and we were heavily armed. So they started running around. So when they come around, then the boys relocate. And we had guys on the ground who were just giving us intel. They move here, they move there. So the whole day, it was like a drobia garden, because all the things they wanted to do, I mean, when they pass here, we're chasing them. When they pass here, we're following them. Because my position is that we don't want to cheat anybody. But we won't also sit down for someone to rob us of our victory. Otherwise, we would have undermined the the voting that Ghanaians, or the faith or the trust that Ghanaians were putting in us. And that was why we're really, really vigilant. And I think that vigilance was one of the major elements that won this election massively for the NDC. We would have won, but perhaps it wouldn't have been this massive, because then others would have had a chance to interfere with the results at different levels.
As a member of parliament, you've been an active participant in this hung parliament. Now, people have described John Mahama's victory as him now wielding supreme power. What should we expect in the next parliament?
I think that the next parliament would be a parliament to reset Ghana. And it will be a parliament that would carefully look at what Ghanaians want and would do exactly what Ghanaians want. I believe Ghanaians, in their good judgment, handed over this massive victory to the NDC, so we will reset the country. So we will undo all the evil that has been unleashed on the country. So, for instance, NDC under former President Mills began the constitutional review, where a lot of money was invested in the process. I remember Professor Atuguba and their team traveled across the country and were asking Ghanaians what they wanted done to the Constitution and various provisions in the Constitution. And recommendations were made, and government white paper was issued on them. Indeed, one of those recommendations was the abolition of the death penalty. And through the work I did in this parliament, now the death penalty is no more. What it means is that by legislative intervention, even if you are not going to do a referendum, by legislative intervention, a number of proposals in the Constitutional Review Commission's report can be carried out by this parliament. So the question is, Ghanaians, are we still sure that we no more want the Ministry of Justice to be together with Attorney General's Department because it has a potential of compromising the quality of justice? If the answer is yes, this parliament can pass legislation to decouple it. If do we need one national development plan led by the National Development Authority, which would have a mandate that would not be interfered with politically? If the answer is yes, this parliament can pass a law to make that happen. Do we need an independent police commission that would ensure that even appointments and gradings and things are not politically interfered with, such that the institution become very independent and the institution can serve the interests of Ghana? If it's yes, this parliament can make that happen. Do we need an independent judicial commission that prescribes the way in which judges are appointed and the way in which judges are promoted, where the promotion of a judge is not based on the whims and caprices of another judge, such that he can say that jail this guy and the judge has no choice than to jail, because if I don't jail him, maybe my promotion. I recall when I was having those challenges, those times with the General Legal Council, I challenged the General Legal Council at the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court. And at the Court of Appeal, it was very obvious that what I had applied for was the right thing, which was a stay. There was a senior judge on the panel that called me and told me that, so you are a young person, even if we don't, grant you this, you can always, challenge in other courts and you can still succeed. But if we do not,
so the system was compromised. If
we grant you, we still have to be, we must be recommended for promotion and things. And so the judge knew that, I knew that was a position of the law. But he knew that if they grant that, their position and their future may not be guaranteed. You see, and that is so because we don't have, like it appears in other jurisdictions, independent judicial commissions that actually even prescribe how people are appointed and they are promoted. So basically I'm saying that each and every institution and organ of state requires a reset. And by God's grace, conversation,
I know you want
this parliament has an opportunity to reset each and every of these.
You would be going back to Parliament on the 16th, am I right? Would you occupy the minority aisle of the House?
I think that when the Lord has confirmed our majority, whom am I to change what happens on the floor?
So the NDC will still sit on the majority aisle?
The interesting thing is that, you see, on the floor, the NDC remains a working majority. All we need to do is to just go there in the morning. One speaker comes, we pass a resolution to remain where we are.
Francis Xavier Sosu, Member of Parliament for Medina constituency. And